Hello, hello, everyone. I am doing this spontaneous live today. I was just on the phone with my accountant of all things, and I was telling her about the kind of clients that would typically come to me for services. And I was telling her, like, yeah, it's more of like I'm dealing with ghosts or demons or, some of these stranger oddities of the spiritual world. That's typically my realm to work in because I've been doing this for 20 years now. And she was like, "Oh my gosh, I bet you have the best ghost stories." I was like, "You're right. I do have the best ghost stories. I should jump online and share some of those." So that's actually what I'm doing. I just got off the phone with her. I thought it was a brilliant idea. I was like, it's Halloween. So happy Halloween, everyone, and blessed Samhain. This is a really beautiful time of year to have these conclusions, to have this time where the harvest season is ready to be harvested and enjoyed and celebrated, as well as our ancestors. And so today is a special day. And then we move into All Souls Days and All Saints Days and the Day of the Dead. And all these things are just right here, right now. Why? Because the veil is super thin, you guys. Like, this is the time of year I don't like to leave the house. If I can have someone else take my daughter trick-or-treating, that is what's going to happen, because I really want to stay in my own sacred space where I know who I'm going to be interacting with on this very thin veil. And when spirits are showing up, I'm kind of like, I'm not listening to you right now. I'm not helping. However, there was a time many years ago in Bozeman, Montana, where I was working above a salon. The salon was named Hera, which I thought was really cool because I was like working above the name of a goddess. Like, that's a whole other thing. But when I was working there, I had a really beautiful studio space and a lobby, and the building was totally haunted. And the salon owner constantly was like, "Hey, Christine, do you deal with ghosts? Can you deal with the ghosts that are in the basement? Like, they're freaking out my estheticians." And I'm like, yeah, I can do that. And so this year for Halloween, I held a ceremony to basically clean up all of the ghosts in the building, as well as the the building next door. The building next door. So these two buildings, here's the cool thing. These two buildings were the brothel houses in Bozeman. So where I was working, it was the brothels madame, like the head show person. So that was the building that I was working out of. So when the women got sick, or the women were pregnant, or the women were unhealthy, or whatever it was, and they needed respite, they would move from the brothel house over to the house next door, which was the building that I was working in. So of course there was ghosts there. And the next door brothel house was totally full of ghosts. And they had a hatch in the back room that would go underground. And it was a tunnel to the nearby historical hotel. So this was like very real, classic brothel house, if you will. So the brothel house was full of ghosts. The house next door to the madame's home and like the respite area for the women was also like fully haunted. And here I am just chilling on the third story of this building doing my Reiki practice at the time. And so here's Halloween, and I'm like, okay, let's just make an event out of it. And I can bring in some of my students and I can train them how to do this, because there was a time in my life that the ghosts would make me nervous, right? Like, there's a bit of like, you're scared of the unknown. And then when you realize these are souls that don't have the support to move into their next level of understanding, right? And so these poor ghosts are quite literally trapped in this physical reality on the spiritual side, and they can't go anywhere. So a lot of the souls that were working with that night were souls that had been trapped in this brothel house or the neighboring house for like 100 years. And that is just the saddest thing. I find that this work is I love doing this work at this point, because I'm helping a soul move away from their own hellish reality of this loop, right? And into love and light, into crossing that rainbow bridge, that the door has been closed on them. There's no way to move over. And so this is very satisfying work, and yet work that I want to do with really clear intentions. I'm not going to tell you guys to go out and do this on your own if this is new to you, but it was a great opportunity to be like, all right, I've got these 2 buildings full of ghosts. I've got students that want to learn, and let's make it happen. So I called up one of my Reiki master's friends, and I was like, told her what I wanted to do. And she was like, yeah, great, let's do it. And so she built a bonfire in the back of one of the buildings. Like, these are old historical homes. So even though I'm working out of a salon, these are old houses. These are like 1900 houses. And so they had a backyard. And so and they had a fire pit. And I'm like, great, okay, let's build the fire pit. We had students come out, like previous Reiki students of my own, and really anyone who wanted to join us to learn how to support ghosts. I was like, you should come join me. And so before we began, we had ceremony. We called in our helpers, our healing helpers. We called in the archangels. We called in Jesus. We called in all of the cheerleaders that are going to show up to support us in this work. I think that is like the number one thing I would say with working with any kind of ghosts or entities that you're unaware of, if they're of the love and light or not, is that you want to have your support team with you. You want to have the heavy lifters. And to me, that's archangels. I want the archangels to be with me for this kind of work. So I'm calling in my help. We're all like together around the fire, opening up the light portal. And so we utilize the light, the illumination from the fire to create a light portal that would allow the ghosts to see that there was the light, quote unquote, the light. Because when ghosts miss their opportunity, like when we die and we miss our opportunity, then we're looking for the light and we don't know where to find it, or we're just in a loop and we're not even sure that we're dead. We're just in a loop of the emotion that we died in, right? And so here we have this light portal that's opening, specifically with the intention to attract ghosts to it, right? We want the ghosts to be able to come out of the woodwork, come out of the buildings and into the light portal with the help of angels and other support spirits to get them to cross over. And so this is really, really beautiful work that you can do. And so we called in our heavy lifters, we called in our helpers, we opened up a light portal, and then it was time to get to work. And so I had a couple people working with me. I gave one person a smudge stick. I gave another person, I think, a rattle, and I was working with the shamanic drum. And I'm working through maybe I had a feather and I was just doing Reiki. I did have a drum at one point because there was some spirits that were like trapped in the wall, and the vibration of the drum helped pull them out. So like the drum is one of my tools that I do like to use if I want to draw energy out of something that's stuck, including a person. Like if you have a big, heavy emotion that's trapped in your body, a drum will vibrate it to the surface to move it through. Same thing if you've got a ghost stuck in the wall. Okay. So I started in Hera, the salon first. We wanted to do this building first, and then I was going to move over next door to the full-on brothel house. And because I had my own space there, I knew where the ghosts were for the most part. Like I knew that we had a couple in the basement. I knew that we had a couple on the first floor hanging out in some of the spaces. And so we used our light and the angels that were with us to call them out. And we really went through every single room, calling them out, calling them forward, doing the smudge, and inviting them to join with us to come out to the fire, come out to that light portal. And so you go through each and every room, you give the room Reiki, you smudge it, you call them forward, you tell them what we're doing, and they can see our light. They can see our light. They can see the angels that are with us. They can feel our intention. And I think that's the other thing. We need to have a very clear intention. My intention was to gain their attention. And this was during the time when I had a practice in the third story. And oftentimes I would have ghosts show up in the middle of my sessions. I'd be like, yo, you're not allowed to interrupt this. I'm working on my client right now. You're not my client. You need to wait till Tuesday at 2 o'clock for your appointment. So I literally had a ghost appointment set on my schedule while I was working in this building, because when they were ready, they would come to me and I would be like, you can't just interrupt the session that I'm in. It's not your turn. You got to wait your turn. And so this was and I highly recommend this. If you have spirits that are coming to you all the time, you can set up boundaries. Be like, you're not on my books. Your appointment time is here. You need to wait. And I would literally have a line of ghosts that would wait for me. Guess what? They've been waiting 100 years. They can wait another 6 days until my next appointment time. Right. So I was very used to having ghosts around because I would make them wait for that opportunity to meet with me, to have a light portal opening. And so this was a day I'm like, it's Halloween. We're going to move everyone through right now. We're going to clean it all up and the space is going to feel so much lighter, right? If these heavier, denser energies that can't cross over on their own is blessedly moving through that rainbow bridge, through that light portal. And so we're going through each room, we're giving it Reiki, we're smudging it, we're calling the ghosts out, and I'm leading them to the light. I'm leading them down to the light portal. So that was basically the first building. It was like everyone knew me ghost wise, like they seen me around, like I hung around that space long enough that they knew what I was up to. They knew what I was about. And I think the ghosts kind of talked to each other. And so they were very familiar with my energy, if you will. And they were willing. Like, I think they knew that because I did so much light work, they often thought that I was the light portal, or the work that I was doing in sessions was the light portal. And so they were always kind of just around, and I had to get really comfortable with giving them boundaries and telling them when I would be able to meet with them. And so that was just like the way I worked, right? Like, you have to have an appointment time. You can't just interrupt me in a session. And I was doing probably 15 to 20 clients a week at this point. So I had a very busy practice and I had employees, and, I knew what was up. So great. We got the first building all cleared out. That was the Madame's home for the brothel and any of the women who were sick, right? So cleared that one out. And then I knocked on the door next door. I'm like, it happened to be the Democratic headquarters for, I think this is 2016. And so I knocked and I was like, hey, we're doing some energy work. Just wondering if you would let us in to energetically clear this building. And they were like, oh yeah, it needs it. So funny. Like, here are these very political, obviously, but like logical, grounded, mostly men, mostly young, most of those volunteers are in their early 20s. And I was like, would you mind if I come in and do some drumming and smudge and like all of the things? And they were totally down. I was grateful for that. I was like, okay, you guys are at least open-minded enough for me to come into your building with like I had 2 or 3 people with me who were clearly like, we're on the woo-woo side of things when we're just opening up. We're just clearing out the ghosts. I know this was the old brothel house, right? So we went in, and when we got to the back of the building, there was one of the volunteers at his computer, and he was like, oh, you got to see this. And he rolls up the rug and he opens up this hatch in the floor. And he's like, down here, this is where they're all coming from. I can feel them coming in and out. And I was like, all right, let's go down. And literally, this hatch was used for when the brothel house was raided. All of the women would run to this room. They would open up the hatch and they would hide in this. It's a floor space. I mean, you could stand up in it, kind of hunched down, but it wasn't a basement. It was a hiding place, right? And so this was the tunnel that would connect the brothel house to the historical hotel like a half a block away, right? And so these men could sneak from their historical hotel over to the brothel house, and the women, when they would get raided, they would go all run and hide down there, and hopefully they wouldn't get caught. And if they needed to sneak over to the hotel, they maybe could have, right? So there was a lot of fear and like I'm hiding, I'm hiding, I'm hiding, like terrified for my life, energy down in this space. And why? Because all of the ghosts were still hiding. They were so scared to come out. And so I was able to sit and meditate in this space and really, here it is, Halloween, the veil is freaking thin. And I'm like, hey, you guys, this is what's up. This is what you've been experiencing. And I'm here to wake you up and call you out into the light. I know you've been down here for a very long time, probably over 100 years. They have been down in this basement space. And so I talked to them. There was children down there. There was young women down there. There was these just incredible amount of intense energy in the space. And I was just like, it's time to go to the light. You guys deserve the light. You deserve to know that you are not going to hell, because here's the thing with that, like, you get what you believe, right? So if you believe that you're going to hell because everyone during that time who was Christian told them that they were going to hell, they believe it. And so they're not going to the light. They're scared of the light because they're afraid that if they cross over, they're going to go to hell. Well, guess what? When we do this, they've created their own hell. They have been hiding for over 100 years in this basement, right? And so here I am showing up going, I have angels. I have angels for all of you. Everyone gets paired with an angel. And I welcomed in all of this healing, love, and light energy. I welcomed in the angels to come to show them that they had the opportunity to cross over in a healthy, supportive way, right? And so here I am bringing in a team of angels, and we're liberating them. We are liberating them to come out of the basement and into the light and to move closer to that light portal. And it was the most beautiful thing that I could do on Halloween, right? And so here we are clearing out this basement area of all of these souls that have been trapped. And so that was like such an experience, you guys. It was such an experience. And then we went through the rest of the building as we did the first building, where we had someone doing sage. I was doing Reiki. We were drumming and really working through the whole entire building to see if there was anyone else that were stuck in the building, and called them out as well. And so that was, 2 political seasons ago. That was 2016, the brothel houses in Bozeman, Montana. And, this is why I think I have a really hard time with quote unquote ghost hunters, or, these, let's go visit this building that's now marketed as ghost. Like, these are struggling souls, you guys. Like, they don't like you taking money to like make profit off of souls. I don't like the ghost hunters. It makes me cringe because they're valid. These souls are valid. I wouldn't want anyone to treat me that way if I died and then I was stuck. Like, I want help. like don't just send people out to watch me and make fun of me because I'm stuck in my misery. They need support. And so here was a really beautiful night where we were able to help so many souls cross over, and then do a final ceremony to wish them well and to close that light portal. And it was just a really beautiful evening. And I thanked all of my spirit guides, my archangels, the angels that came with us, the shamanic tools that we had along, and all of my Reiki students who showed up that evening. We did some really beautiful work that night. So I wanted to share, that's probably my favorite and most impactful ghost story. I definitely have others. Let me know if you want to hear them. And I think that's what I wanted to share with you guys today. I thought it would be fun to come on to share a ghost story for Halloween, and know that working with the ghosts doesn't have to be scary, and know that this is kind of the work that I often been involved in. So if you make it through Soul Rising and Soul Rising Practitioner and my advanced, I have a whole training on how to work with ghosts, how to do intrusive entity removals, and all of the things. Sabrina, you are so ready for it. You would totally be ready for the advanced. And I love doing this work. Like, I really feel so much compassion for ghosts, and I wish others did too. They're not all bad. They just got stuck here because they were told that they were bad. Another ghost story, if you will, because I think you learn a lot from the ghost stories. The one that's coming to mind is I had been invited to do a energy clearing on a restaurant. And this restaurant was freaking huge. It was like 5,000 square feet, multiple layers and 2 different kitchens. And I basically was like, wow, I walked in, I'm like, I'm moving through all the space and like, there's not a lot here. I mean, there's some heaviness that can be in almost any space because as people come together and they express the heaviness of the day or they express their trauma or whatever it may be, it can fall away and release. And so it can kind of just hang out until we clear it out. Right. And so it had a normal level of heaviness that I would typically find in a public space. And so we cleared all of that out. But I was hired because they were like, there are some people that really don't like our restaurant. And they say that we have bad energy. And I'm like, I'm not finding it. And I wanted to leave the front door for last. And so I got to the front door of this restaurant and there was an antique barbershop chair at the front door. And there was a ghost sitting there. And it's like, oh, it's you. You are the one who is causing people to think that this place is haunted. And he was a grumpy old man. He was so bitter. He was bitter. That's what it was. He was so bitter and resentful and just kind of like, yeah, well, like his personality was very much like, yeah, well, I had a hard life and these people should have hard lives too. And, like just in that loop. And so this is what I'm saying, like with ghosts, they could be in a loop of their energy from their lifetime. So if they died in a grumpy old man loop where they're bitter and resentful and like hate everyone, and they're in that loop and they know that if they cross over, they believe that they're going to hell, they created their own hell. They're stuck here. They've created it. Right. And so he's in this loop and I'm like, oh, buddy, we need to talk. I think that is how I typically approach ghosts. I'm like, they can't do anything to me. Like my energy is solid, right? Like I've got my beautiful auric field around me. Like I feel good about my own energy. Like I think that's a key. If you're going to do this work, you got to feel like you're freaking solid. You got to feel like nothing can touch me because then they can't. You have energetic boundaries. So I'm like, oh, buddy, let's talk about this. Okay. So show me what you're doing. And so he showed me like when people would come into the restaurant, if they had their energetic shields down, if they didn't have alignment, if you will, he would steal their energy. He would swipe them and make them feel depleted. And because he was like, people stole from me, I can steal from them. Right. And so I was like, okay, well, that's not cool. That's not okay. And oftentimes my favorite way to go about helping a ghost is introducing them to an angel or an archangel. Archangel Uriel is my go-to guy. Archangel of Light, he's down for doing this work because he is the light. He will work with anyone to help bring them into the light, right? So I'm like, hey, I've got someone you need to meet. I think you're going to like him. I'm like, because you're stuck in this negative energy loop and I don't think you actually enjoy it. Are you having a good time? He's like, no, I hate this. I'm like, great. I've got a perfect vacation for you, buddy. You're going to want to go. So I bring in Archangel Uriel. I go, I want you to meet my friend Uriel. Why don't you shake his hand? Because I know if a ghost touches an archangel, they're going to feel it. They're going to have that connection where they feel that spark of energy that says, this is the light. And so I'm like, this is my friend, Archangel Uriel. They touch and his demeanor shifts instantly and was like, what's going on? I'm like, you're dead, buddy. You're stuck in a loop. And I would like you to work with Archangel Uriel to go to a better place. It's time. You don't need to be here anymore. So I kick him off in this conversation and eventually he decides, yeah, okay, I'll go. I'll go with him because he can feel Archangel Uriel. He can feel the angels around. He can feel the light. And so it can be as simple as that. And I think that's the beautiful thing about doing this type of work, if you are clairvoyant and you can see through that veil, how easy this can be. Right. And so I think this is one of the reasons why I love teaching shamanic journey work, because we're looking at how to see through that veil. How do we see into other realities, other dimensions, the middle world, right? That's what we'd call it in the shamanic world. And so I can see through that and just be like, here you go. Here's your new best friend. Go with him. He's going to help you. And the restaurant was cleared. It can be that simple. I'm going to tell you one more ghost story before I jump off. I think you'll enjoy this one too. I got a call from a younger woman. She had taken my Reiki training when she was probably in her early 20s, and she was still in that age range. And she was like, I have got a ghost in my house. I feel like someone is watching me in the shower. I don't feel safe. Like I feel like someone is watching me and I don't like it. And I'm like, okay, I'll come over. And so I go over and I have my sage and I have my rattle and I'm doing Reiki. And I asked her, I'm like, do you want to do this with me? I oftentimes let the people who ask for me to do an energy clearing to see if they want to participate, because it's that level of like free will of like, this is my house and I'm calling it like I am sovereign and my house is a sovereign space. Like if I can get the person who's hired me to participate, I feel like it's more powerful. So I always offer that option. They don't have to. They can say no, I don't want to do it, but I always offer that option. And if I remember right, she was like, I'm too scared. I don't want to do this. Like can I wait outside? I'm like, yeah, you can go wait outside. That's fine. I'll tell you when I'm ready. And so I was going through, I always try to start in the least quote unquote ghost occupied space and then move to the most ghost occupied space at the end. I want to deal with the ghost very last. I want to get the whole rest of the house all cleaned up, cleared out, and then so I'll ask, what is the room in the house that you feel has the heaviest energy? And so this time the heaviest energy was in their family room. And I was like, okay, great. So I started in the back bedrooms. I did the bathrooms. I did the downstairs. I did the kitchen that was also connected to the dining room. That was connected to the living room space. Like now we're talking about it. Right. So the kitchen was like, I could tell that there was some activity going on. So I moved into that living room space. I sat down. I kind of went into a meditative mode. And oftentimes I'm playing shamanic music the whole time I'm doing any of this. Like I want to hear that drum beat to kind of get me into that trance state. So I am living and moving in that world. So got the drum beat playing. I'm sitting in the living room and I'm like, okay, who's here? Like, come on out, show yourself. And this guy, he's got to be like, he feels like in his late 20s, early 30s. I'm like, hey, man, who are you? What are you up to? And he's like, oh, I'm freaking bored. I'm like, how did you get here? Why are you here? It's like, I came in with that chair. She got it from the antique store. I'm like, okay. Note, you guys, if you buy things from antique stores, you need to be energetically clearing them. Okay. Just, you need to watch the stuff that you bring from used places. Okay. So he came in with the used furniture. I go, okay, well, what's the deal? Like, I hear that you're watching the pretty girls. There's 2 college-age girls in this house. Like, I hear you've been watching them. He's like, yeah, they're hot. I'm like, his personality was so early 1980s. And so I just sat back. I was like, there's this new thing called consent. And let me explain it to you. That you need to have informed consent before you go watch a woman in the shower. You need to have informed consent, meaning they say yes and they want it to happen before you go freak out the cat. Like, you shouldn't be doing any of this. And he's like, but I'm bored. I'm like, okay, so what do you do when you're bored? And he's like, well, I watch her in the shower. I mess with the cat. And sometimes I invite the ghosts over for a party at night. I go, okay, tell me about that. Who are all these other ghosts? He's like, they're just in the neighborhood. And so they come over sometimes. I'm like, okay, so you're throwing parties, watching TV in the living room, and like they're having a ghost party. I'm like, all right, here's the thing. This ain't your house. You're not supposed to be here. What's the deal? You want out of this, right? You don't want to be here. He's like, no, I totally want out of this. I'm like, great. I got just the ride for you and your friends. How about you call them all over? How about you get all of the ghosts over and I'm going to give you the best time of your life. And it's going to bring you right to crossing over into the light, and you are going to have the best time over. This is going to be an amazing ride. He's like, okay. He just was happy that I was mixing up his world, right? Like he's just bored. And so he invites all the ghosts, the neighborhood ghosts, all come over. And I have Archangel Uriel there. I'm like, I need you to make this really fun and exciting. Like, can we set up the bridge to be a roller coaster ride so that they can roller coaster ride their way into the light? He's like, yeah, let's do that. And so we have out the back sliding glass door is this enchanted roller coaster ride that's bringing them into a light portal so that they can cross over. And I was like, have fun, guys. And they're all loaded up. They were cheering. They were so excited. And I think part of my point of this, like, yes, they crossed over. I think my point of the story is that these girls were terrified of their house and being watched and all the things. And it was just some 1980s bachelor who was bored. He wasn't scary. He wasn't doing anything to hurt them. He was just bored. And how often do we have ghosts in our life that we're scared of or nervous about? And it actually turns out that they're just in their personality. He was just bored. He was just being a goofy bachelor that didn't have anything better to do. And so we got to cross them and all the neighborhood friend ghosts over too. And I think that's why I love doing this work. Sometimes you never know what you're going to get. And I always have the archangels help. If they know that's what I'm going into and I'm setting the intention and I'm clearing out their house, like it feels really good to be able to support people in their life this way. So I hope that you're not scared of the ghosts tonight. Know that they are about, like, the veil is really thin, but so are our loving ancestors. So are our spirit guides and our power animals, and that we have so much support team behind us to remember to call on them today. Remember to call on your loving ancestors. Remember to call in your spirit guides. Remember to call in your heavy lifters. Remember to call in the angels, because they can walk with you today. And I just want to put that out there as we move into the darkness. Like the sun is setting soon in a lot of places, and that you can walk confidently with your children trick-or-treating or whatever you're doing tonight, and know that you're safe, you're good to go. And if you are wanting one of these higher level sessions where you think you have ghosts about or whatever it may be, feel free to reach out to me. I do sessions for this. And yeah, if you have any questions, let me know. Thanks everyone for watching. And it was fun to hop on and do this really spontaneous. So lots of love and light, and take care. Take care.